There seems to be a popular trend these days of people using various psychedelics, drugs, various herbs like ayahuasca or mushrooms, and they claim to have reached enlightenment. Is there any basis to such claims, and what is your recommendation?
It is true, and I've seen this myself many times, that people have commented that they've tried various substances, natural or otherwise, and after having a very intense trip or some experience, they've declared that they have seen the truth or that they have reached enlightenment or something along those lines. There's a very good chance that, from my experience, I've seen it, most of these claims are false. And I'm not even saying that these are, some negative declarations because of a certain agenda. It could be that the person actually did think that they have reached some form of enlightenment, but it doesn't mean they actually have. Using substances of any kind or all kinds of psychedelics, herbs, whatever, in some cases, for example, ayahuasca and others, may indeed generate for a person some state. We all know that when a person tries a drug, even if you yourself never tried it, we simply know from experience of seeing it on television or hearing people who have tried it, that it can be a very intense state sometimes. Sometimes negative, sometimes positive, but many times it is intense. This can easily be confused by the mind firing up, creating all kinds because of the hormones, the chemicals that the brain is exposed to and producing. It can be a very, very intense experience and therefore very confusing. But it is definitely not a state of enlightenment. The thing is that the state of enlightenment in the yogic tradition and in most other traditions where great enlightened beings were created or were achieving those states through practice is that they all tell us that it has to be done in a controlled manner. It has to be done in a way that the practice itself matures the mind gradually until the mind breaks through from its limitations and reaches a higher level of truth, a higher level of existence. But that development must be done in a gradual way, and it should be done with specific practice until the expansion reaches such a level which is permanent. And then a person who reaches a state of enlightenment, in many cases, would be able to reach it again and again because they have simply kind of created the path. And now they are able to access it at will. When people use various substances, as we've mentioned, what happens is that they have a chaotic expansion of the mind. And it's not possible to do it differently with the drug unless the person has already been enlightened without drugs. And that's why using any kind of substances may open some doors, may create all kinds of effects. Some of them might even be beneficial to a certain degree, but in many cases they may not be beneficial. And therefore these things can be beautiful to experience sometimes, especially by using some of the more natural substances, but still it is not something that really matures the mind to a degree where the evolution is authentic and permanent. That can only be achieved through spiritual practice. And that's why I personally don't recommend people to do that. I would tell people that instead of going for shortcuts, because that's what it is, most people in modern times, they don't have the patience, the perseverance, the commitment to really go on a spiritual path for the years that are recommended to do it for and dedicate intense practice and effort to it for many years. Most people would say, if I could do a weekend ritual of some sort, take some drug, take some substance of some kind, and quickly get the results, then I would go for that. Why work hard? But the problem is that there are no shortcuts. Any of these shortcuts, trying to take all kinds of substances and so on, are doomed to fail. They might give some openings, they might give some nice feeling, maybe even the illusion of success, but they will not take you there. And that's why I don't recommend people to use substances of this kind, but to actually use the authentic teachings, put in the effort which is required, and then when they reach certain levels of consciousness which are very developed, then they will see for themselves that they have reached something which is real and sustainable and which is permanent. Otherwise, we're talking about some chaotic experiences, in many cases not even beneficial, but can be very misleading and even damaging, not to mention the drugs themselves of any kind, even natural substances, can toxify the system and can cause a lot of damage to the nerves and to the brain and so on. And that's why definitely not a recommended option. Shortcuts don't get you there. You have to do it for real, the way that the yogis have taught we should do it, the way that all spiritual teachers recommended the spiritual practice to be done.